Back live with you tonight, John in Focus, and thanks for staying on. Water and Sanitation Minister Senzo Mchunu has welcomed Tshwane Mayor Cilliers Brink's resolve to address the cholera outbreak and water supply problems in Hammanskraal. This was revealed in a meeting that they held last week. Now, the Metro has also raised concern about reports of people selling water in the area. We're joined now by Outa WaterCan initiatives, Dr. Ferrial Adam, as well as EFF Tshwane Whip, Godwin Ratikwane. And you're a part of the conversation tonight on 072110558. You send us your thoughts on what interventions you believe should be put in place, certainly as trouble continues in parts of Gauteng, as well as the Free State, and some other cases being reported in Limpopo. Godwin, good to have you. Dr. Ferrial, good to have you, and thank you very much for your time and coming on tonight. Maybe let's start here, Dr. Ferrial, if you could help us as far as water purification, storage facilities, and just generally the ability of the Gauteng province to provide clean, healthy, drinkable water. Where are we? Are the systems in good condition?
So I think that in the city of Joburg, so not Gauteng as a general thing, but I think in the city of Joburg, it's pretty good. And it's safe to drink the water, the tap water for now, I would say for now. Yeah. But as you move out of, the city of Joburg area, it becomes more and more difficult to ascertain that. So I think that there are concerns, and Hammanskraal has been going through this for about 16 years now, or longer, actually, where they've been reliant on water tankers because the water from their taps are not safe to drink. So there are pockets of those areas, and you are right that I think that moving forward, our wastewater treatment plants are in a concern and needs to be monitored much more closely.
If a resident were to say, prove it, Dr. Ferrial, you're saying the city of Joburg is in good condition, how do you know?
So we as WaterCan conducted some tests about 3 weeks ago, and we did it random spots across the city, public tap water. And most of our all of our tests came out fine. So the drinking water is fine. But added to that, and we use something called citizen science, which allows ordinary people to test their water. But the city of Joburg also conducted tests most recently, I think 2 weeks ago, when the cholera outbreak hit the news. And they have also said that the tap water is safe.
Yeah. You are uncomfortable as the EFF with that kind of thinking that the water is safe. Although you're not pointing particularly to a thing, but you feel you want to go and check for yourselves.
Yeah, we are definitely uncomfortable. And firstly, we need to, say our condolences to the families that have lost their loved ones in Hammanskraal and, everywhere else where there have been deaths. We cannot have a situation where in 2023 we're discussing the issue of water. We should be discussing issues, the bullet trains that have failed of Ramaphosa and all that. But the point here is that we can't sit and wait for sporadic and, random incidents to occur before we do something. So ours is a holistic approach. We would like to see a situation whereby the people of Tshwane, the people of Alexander, deep down there, who are already on the news, they don't feel safe with the water that they're drinking. There's contamination all the time. The water pipes are leaking. There is nothing that is being done to show that there is some form of response and a holistic response from government in general to address the problem. So we do not want to be caught with our pants down again in this particular instance. Yeah. So we want to go across Gauteng and make sure that we do check and we do oversight for our own selves so that we are actually satisfied, and where we don't believe that there is proper systems in place, we raise the alarm systems on time just to make sure that we get these things done before we get more stories or more incidents, because now the casualties are too high. It's not what we're supposed to be sitting with currently. Yeah.
Do you think, generally speaking, the oversight function has been lax?
Definitely, it has been. So we have got many councillors, many different spheres of government that are just sitting and in air-conditioned boardrooms. They are not going on the ground to experience what people are experiencing. We've got councillors that have literally are elected as councillors, ward councillors, but they've relocated. So that's why the information does not filter through. You've got public representatives that do not stay. They stay elsewhere, and they were elected somewhere else. So they cannot themselves attest when they do their job. They can't say, where I stay, there is this kind of a problem. They hear about it, and sometimes they don't do anything about it because it doesn't affect them directly. So we need to go there. And the citizens' test, like the doctor here is referring to, is a very good exercise that must be done across the board. And not only for this time, but continuously so, and not just on issues of water, but everywhere else. If you see the sanitation issues in Alexander, where toilets are flowing into the river and the streams, already showing you that there is a possible problem that might arise from that particular situation. So we can't sit and say, no, everything is fine, we're relaxed, everything is fine. Because tomorrow we're going to find ourselves in a similar situation, but maybe happening in a different location.
Yeah. Dr. Ferrial, do you confine yourself to just purely testing the water that comes out of the tap, or are you privy to information of what is happening, for example, in as far as the functioning of the infrastructure itself? Because if we look at the numbers and the concerns that are being raised, even by the Department of Health, is that gastrointestinal infections are continuing to rise. And there's a report that comes that says, well, the water network is fine. There's no trace of any cholera there, and some other tankers seemingly were tested and there was no trace there. However, people are continuing to become sick. So what could possibly be going wrong? And if we dig a little bit deeper, what are we likely to find out?
Look, the state of our water resources in general is in a state of concern. And our wastewater treatment works, as well, as Godwin has pointed out, are falling apart. They're at a critical risk level. So if you look at the green drop and blue drop report the government does, 23 out of 900 wastewater treatment works received a certification last year. So that is very concerning. If people are drinking, so I think in some cities, like, Johannesburg, we can say that the tap water is okay. It's great that the EFF is going to go and do check the wastewater treatment plants, but I think it should not be a once-off. It should be constant. The second thing is that if we look at the state of our wastewater treatment works across the country, our rivers are completely polluted, and we're having raw sewage flowing into our rivers and streams. A few years ago, it was estimated that 50,000 liters of sewage flows into the rivers per second because of wastewater treatment works that are failing. So given that, you can understand that if people are drinking water from the rivers and streams, or if they're getting water from water tankers that are getting water from the rivers and streams that are polluted, they will get ill. So the issue around water then is about access, because only 46% of South Africans have a good running tap in their homes. The rest are either dependent on a communal tap, or they're dependent on rivers or streams close to their homes. And I would say 9 out of 10 of those rivers and streams are completely polluted with high levels of E. coli, and that would also cause the kind of symptoms we're seeing with cholera, which is diarrhea, vomiting, and general illness.
Yeah. The question that comes then is the quality of standards, but also the compliance bodies and whether or not they are doing what they are supposed to be doing. If you have to look at our situation and what standards we are adhering to, are they still relevant considering the kind of situation that we are dealing with in South Africa right now, the degree of polluted rivers and so on and so forth, in terms of the quality of filters that we put into our systems, in terms of the regularity at which we test, and the compliance bodies, are they functioning independently enough to do and to alert us, as the AFF is saying, we want to raise the flag in time before incidents occur?
So there's a few things. One is that many of our water service authorities, like the city of Joburg, like Rand Water, do have good standards in place. That does exist, right? The problem, though, is not so much whether the standards are good. The problem is, as you're saying, is whether these are being followed at particular plants. So in some, in terms of the audit, the green drop and blue drop audit, they go and they check everything, from skills, from chemicals, bacterial. They check everything that needs to be checked in terms of good water. The thing that we need to know is that with high levels of polluted rivers, it's going to cost more for us to clean that water. And so that becomes an added challenge for us in the country.
Yeah. So talk to us about that. I mean, I had a very interesting conversation the other day with the Gauteng spokesperson for the ANC to say back in 2014, 2015, I suppose a green dot compliance was quite good. Even though when I looked at some of the State of the City addresses by the mayor at the time, he was concerned about the drop, or maybe not the optimal level of the blue dot. So please put us in a picture as to what is the difference, and why would, for example, a blue dot be allowed to be sitting at about 70% of where it should be, and that room for it to improve?
Yes, so the blue drop is an analysis or an audit of our water treatment plants, so your drinking water. Your green drop is an audit of your wastewater treatment works, and that's the two, the blue and the green drop. It's both actually quite bad. I mean, the reports were not regular, so let me just add that, is that the report stopped in about 2013 by Minister Mokonyane because the situation was so bad that the department at that time decided not to release any of the reports. They then released the reports last year after about 10 years hiatus. So looking at what has happened over 10 years, there's been a drastic drop in services. And in terms of our drinking water qualities, I would say only about 52% are actually in a safe zone, or, they medium risk. But your wastewater treatment works, it's much more. I want to add, in terms of, the EFF and going to the plants, is that the other thing we're trying to get as well in terms of the standards is that under regulation, every water treatment plant has to test water. There's a monthly test and there's a weekly test if you're going to do bacterial tests. And we have requested that from the city of Tshwane because we don't think that it has been done regularly enough.
Yeah. We are talking now, for example, of a degree of corruption when it comes to water tankers that are delivering water. But it seems the question of corruption within our water infrastructure maybe has been there for a while and has been continuing unchecked. We are now speaking about it because, of course, people are losing their lives, and this particular matter has been in the forefront. How deep has it been?
Yeah, look, corruption is everywhere currently. We are facing a very serious problem. That's why the EFF has always denounced the notion of tenders to deliver services. We always believe in state capacity because we do believe that the financial motive sometimes always influence the decisions of government, where you find a situation whereby certain things are not being done because certain interests must be taken care of or serviced. You have a situation whereby people are profiteering through these water tankers, which is a problem. Because how then do you profiteer over people's misfortunes and all that? And then the government is moving very slow because certain people want to get this particular tender. So we are not for that. But as well, we have a very big situation because we have the institutions that are reporting on these particular issues. If you check the Hammanskraal issue, many reports has been issued. The problem is that now the government at the time, even the current government, did not do anything about this issue. So you find even if there is those red flags that have been raised, if the government is not able to do something about this particular issue, nothing is going to happen. The same thing that is happening, if you check the 1st of April, the EFF issued a statement regarding the traces of cholera that was picked up and all that, and the cases that were reported around Ekurhuleni and so forth. And then what these people then did, they just said, no, it is because of the baptism related to the Easter weekend and all that. And then you see now this problem at a bigger scale in Hammanskraal. But where we are here, we should not be here. And we need to do something urgently, and somebody needs to do something. So us, as the oversight bodies from different municipalities, not just Tshwane, by the way, we need to go in there and make sure that all those reports are released, all those tests that the good doctor is speaking about are also followed up upon, to ensure that we hold people accountable. And if people do not do something, we need to go back there and litigate against them. That's why the EFF has opened a case of mass murder. Because in Hammanskraal, how do you distribute water that you've already identified that is poisonous and is not safe to consume? Are you giving it to people to water their gardens? Why would you do that? Why would you make it accessible for children to open a tap and drink the same water? Then later on you claim that it was not meant to be drunk by people and so forth. Because at the end of the day, you made that poisonous substance available to the communities. And that's exactly what we don't want to see happening going forward. That's why we need to go all out. We need to all make sure that this story does not die down. The story must make sure that we highlight the plight of this thing. And at least by the end of this story, we should have fixed the problem, or at least found out what the problem is. At this stage, Thabo, if I can tell you, we do not have any comprehensive report from the city of Tshwane that can tell you exactly where did this outbreak happen and what exactly are the factors leading to this. So we are in the periphery. We are speaking with this particular issue in general. We do not have specifics to say this is what exactly needs to happen and this is the plan. And then also there is a tendency of throwing money at the problem, not necessarily addressing the core of the problem. We don't have waste collection. We have sewers that are broken. We have all this kind of issues. There must be a comprehensive plan. We can't just sit there and just say, no, it's because of baptism and then we close this. Yeah. Or because of what's called Ferrial and then we just close it there. Yeah. We need to go there and solve the problem holistically so that we make sure that our people live a dignified life and they all have access to safe drinking water.
Right, back with you live tonight here on In Focus. Outa WaterCan Initiatives, Dr. Ferrial Adam, EFF Gauteng PCT member. Godwin Ratikwane still with us tonight and taking your thoughts, 072-110-5584. So, Godwin, I'm looking here, for example, you mentioned earlier before we went to the break, the issue of throwing money at the problem. This is the media statement dated 28th of May from the Department of Water and Sanitation saying, we want to clear this thing of people and all these questions that they're asking. The Roy Vaal wastewater treatment works is polluting the Apis River, which flows into the Leeuwkop Dam, from which water is abstracted by the city's Temba water treatment works. And then they say the Temba water treatment works is supposed to be clean. And it's supposed to clean the raw water abstracted from the dam and treat it so that it is fit for human consumption. However, the water in the dam is so polluted that the Temba water treatment works is not able to treat the water such that it meets the required standard for drinking water. Yet we know that at least close to 300 million in this particular time around has been spent on this particular problem that they are citing here. What went wrong?
Look, I mean, the details are very sketchy. We are not clear exactly what happened. So I don't think there is also proper investigations that have been done, which is something that must be done by the department or the municipality to ensure that there is a problem. What we always we should guard against as citizens and as government or any other organization is to have a situation where we throw money at the problem. Because at this stage, we want a more comprehensive approach to ensure that this issue does not come back again. Because we can't always just put money and hope things will be resolved. And also monitor all these different service providers that are supposed to do the job and ensure that the job is done at the end of the day.
Do we have the capacity? Because I was listening to them talking, and it's likely 3 billion rands that is going to be spent to complete this project. Some of it will come from Treasury, some of it, I don't know, they're going to go to the Development Bank. 3 billion rands later. Right? We hear that they got some service providers to come and do it and they didn't know what they were doing. Is it because we lack that capacity within government to be able to fix these things?
No, the problem, like we're saying to you, that we have decapacitated the state to a point that we're relying on service providers. That's why the EFF says that the tendering system will not take us anywhere to the future, at least a bright future. So we need to ensure that we do not rely on service providers. We capacitate the state to ensure that we are able to provide the basic services. There should not be a reason why Thabo Mdluli must have his trucks moving the entire township in order for the municipality to collect the rubbish. Why should that be? Because all you need is a truck and a driver, and to ensure that this truck is picking up the waste. In this case, you have exactly the same problem because of those interests we are alluding to earlier on, whereby money is flowing all over the place. We're going to always arrive at the same problem. And we can't do the same thing over and over again and expect different results. The whole point here is that let us capacitate the state to ensure that it's able to carry out its mandate. And also, we've taken a resolution, by the way, that this particular municipality here, Tshwane, has failed. There's nothing they can do regarding that particular issue. Actually, they should be distancing themselves from that, put whatever that they can put in terms of their budget, and then allow the national government or provincial government to take over this problem. Because clearly it has went beyond their realm. That's why you have to have a joint press conference with the Minister of Water there nationally, and you will have a mayor sitting next to them. Because clearly they are saying that as Tshwane, we can't fix that problem. So why can't they just let go and stop interfering in that particular process, so that at least this project for this particular problem, it gets handled at a different level, and maybe different expertise will be brought in, because we understand that Tshwane, as much as the capital city, is just one small municipality if you look at the country's spreadness and all that.
Yeah. Dr. Ferrial, I mean, firstly, he raises a very important point that we need to not throw money at this situation. One, we need to have a proper and a correct diagnosis of what the problem is. I don't know if you heard what I just read coming from that statement from the Department of Water and Sanitation. Are they diagnosing the problem correctly? Is that the challenge?
So the challenge, I mean, they did diagnose the problem. I mean, when this came up in from already as far back as 2011. And then you had, in 2018, you had, tests done, you had the Human Rights Commission involved. So on the issue of Hammanskraal, they have diagnosed the problem. The amount that was set aside for it went missing because of corruption. So, but the problem is we can't say we can't throw money at this. It needs to be fixed. And that is going to take some amount of funds. What we are saying as WaterCan is that the time for people to do dodgy work and to sit in positions of power are over. We need to hold people accountable, whether it's municipal managers, whether it is the plant managers, but people need to be held accountable for corruption and when things have been given money and not fixed, but they're still carrying on with their jobs. So I think that is for us what we're saying is until we change that, this situation is going to be the norm wherever we are in all parts of the country. We saw it in Mfuleni, and it's not going to end here. We know that in Makanda, people can't drink their water because of corruption. Money was stolen and upgrades weren't done. So until we hold people legally bound and accountable, then I think this problem is going to continue. And we must also, you can't charge the whole municipality. So you charge a municipality, but people keep their jobs. The municipal managers are in their jobs, all other people are in their jobs, and they just carry on as normal. Yeah. No, that must come to an end. People must actually pay the price for when things go this wrong and so badly wrong. So,
National says either water boards or municipalities treat the raw water abstracted from the rivers, dams, before it is supplied to the household. So that responsibility lies with water boards or with the municipalities. Are they lacking in capacity? Because what happens and why we end up having to spend close to 300 million, and then there's a case there after that the SIU must investigate and the Hawks must arrest people, it's because for some reason we can't hire people here within the municipality or within the water board who will be able to do the work that needs to be done.
So I think it's a combination of things. I think, yes, there are in some places there would be capacity issues, but I think in other places it's about the correct funding and using the funding for the required purposes. So, for example, in some water treatment plants that we know of, they didn't have enough chemicals to clean the water, or they didn't do enough testing to know whether the bacterial counts were high. So those are the basic things where they're not doing it because they don't have the resources to do it. But I do think that they have capacity to, in terms of skills. They have it. They have the skills. It is the resources that go with those skills that are lacking.
Yeah. The EFF is suggesting that we actually at this point we need a complete reset. In fact, what you're suggesting, they should not be continuing to supply this water. Those taps must be closed. Divert, get water from somewhere else for the people of Hammanskraal, but the Rooiwal and the Themba be closed and be reset and start from scratch. Would that be the correct thing to do?
I think that that's a difficult one because, look, it is very polluted. It is a concern. But the challenge is then, where do you get the water from? And what is this reset? If you don't have it's not a simple thing of just closing these taps and then finding water somewhere else and pumping it in here. There's infrastructure that's needed for that. And then do we allow the water tankers to be the norm? Water tankers are only supposed to be put in place when there's a disaster, and it's supposed to be a temporary situation. What we're seeing in Hammanskraal is that water tankers are the norm. And I think in many parts of South Africa, water tankers are becoming the norm. So I think that needs a little bit more investigation. I don't know what plans the EFF has in place.
Yeah. Godwin, what do you suggest should happen?
Look, when it comes to the issue of the green drop and the blue drop, when you realize that this thing is getting out of hand, you can't distribute it. That's the whole point about it. Because at the end of the day, when there is a problem, you must contain the problem. That's why when we had the outbreak of COVID-19, you had a contingency plan where you are isolated, you are told you must quarantine and all that. Because the whole point is that you can't distribute the substance that you believe that, in this case water, that you believe that is already dangerous and is not fit for human consumption. So already that should say like you need to do something from that point first. Now we now start to say, okay, for this, even if we are running water tankers, temporarily until when we fix this kind of an issue. So at this stage, we're sitting with a situation whereby these people just come and they say, no, look, there's a tender, go do what you need to do, and then they sit back. Then there's nothing that happens in the process to ensure that this tender and all these things that are happening actually are fulfilled by different service providers. Yeah. That's where our major problem is. We do not have that kind of capacity to make sure that we do it. And if there is no skills, or because in this case there was funding already allocated, it's not a matter of that there was no capacity, financial capacity to carry out the job. It was there. And then the problem maybe might have been political will or capacity in terms of expertise to ensure that they deliver the services.
We don't have such people. We don't have such engineers, such people with these skills in the country that we can hire.
There should be.
Or they don't want to work for the state.
No, they should be. That's what I'm saying. Once you decapacitate the state, you're going to lose all the good people that were supposed to do this particular job, ensure that there is clean, safe water to be drunk by different communities. And now we find ourselves in this kind of a situation.
Yeah. So you raise an issue in your statement, which you're saying it's questionable, but the department saying here, according to them, the tests were done, quality standards were tested on the water coming from Temba, and the water there doesn't have a trace of cholera. Are you going to independently go and test that water?
That is why we brought that water in council. We said the mayor must at least drink it, because you see, once you send different statements and signals, the next thing we know people are infected with cholera. You come and release a statement that says there's no traces of cholera. You are basically saying that the people are lying, but there is also fatalities on the other hand. That's why we said if you claim that there is no traces of cholera, take this water and drink it yourself, because it's literally from those taps that you've installed in Hammanskraal. Drink this water as the mayor, and let's see if it's good enough, because you say there's no trace of cholera, so there should not be a problem for the executive mayor to drink that water. That is the whole point. That's why when we protested in council, in Tshwane council, we were trying to send the very same message on Wednesday to say we can't be sitting here with denialism, whereby the executive does not want to take accountability of their mess.
Godwin, appreciate your time. Dr. Ferrial, thank you very much for coming on tonight and helping us in this conversation. When we return in a moment, we'll look at some of your WhatsApp messages that have come through as well on 072-110-5584. In Focus continues shortly. All right, back live with you tonight, John In Focus, and thanks for staying on. Well, you've been part of the conversation that we just had moments ago on the situation of the water. Let's look at WhatsApp and what you have been saying tonight on 072-110-5584. Alfios Radipere saying, evening, sir. There are more deaths that are not recorded. Please help us with numbers and offices where we can report these cholera cases. Dan saying, why was electricity and load shedding declared a disaster, but this issue of water cannot be declared a disaster, I ask. Ngwako in Mahikeng, or Ngwako Mahikeng, saying it is very disappointing to learn that Hammanskraal has had this water problem for 14 years. This is pure neglect and gambling with the lives of the people. We don't hear of any lasting solutions. Trucks must not be outsourced. Some of your thoughts there tonight, much appreciated, and thanks for coming on there.